So, dear participants and dear panelists, we shall now begin with today's webinar. A very pleasant evening to all distinguished panelists and participants. Bharati Vidyapeeth Institute of Computer Applications and Management, BVI CAM, in association with Computational Intelligence Society, CIS chapter of IEEE Delhi section, Computer Society chapter of IEEE Delhi section, Technology and Engineering Management Society, TEMS chapter of IEEE Delhi section, System, Man and Cybernetics, SMC chapter of IEEE Delhi section, Communication Society of IEEE Delhi section, Consultants Network Affinity, CNA Group of IEEE Delhi section, Inter-Society Relations, IRS Standing Committee of IEEE Delhi section, Industry Relations and Special Interest Group on Humanitarian Technology, Site Standing Committee of IEEE Delhi section, Region 10 of IEEE with the Associations of Computer Society of India, CSI, Institute of Information Technology Professionals, IITP, ISTE Delhi section, and IETE Delhi Center as technical collaborators. Welcome you all to the technical lecture series today on robotic process automation. Dear participants, it is a moment of pride and honor to announce that we, with united hands, mark special contributions toward the monumental occasion of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, an initiative to celebrate 75 years of glorious independence by organizing thought-provoking sessions for our better future. This webinar is also an initiative for the celebration of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. Rather than wringing our hands about robots taking over the world, smart organizations will embrace strategic automation use cases. Strategic decisions will be based on how the technology will free up time to do the types of tasks that humans are uniquely positioned to perform. This was the quotes of Clara Shih, CEO of Salesforce Service Cloud. Robotic process automation that initially focused on scripting and automating IT-driven business process. Nowadays, robotic process automation has enabled more effective IT operations, increasing speed, agility, and cost effectiveness. Software robots have become dependable digital companion, giving us the time and freedom to think, plan, and focus. They automate the interaction between humans and their technology-enabled processes. It also helps to relieve the pressure on organizations to deliver more with less. The webinar today aims to discuss various aspects of the applications of robotic process automation. I first take this opportunity to welcome amongst us our distinguished panelists for the day. We are privileged to have amongst us a galaxy of experts. I would now welcome Professor M.N. Huda, sir, Director, Bharati Vidyapeeth Institute of Computer Applications and Management, BVI CAM, and Vice Chairperson, IEEE Delhi Section. I would request, sir, to now address the participants with his inspiring words.
Am I audible, Dr. Ritika?
Yes, sir.
Oh, that's great. So good evening, one and all. And at the outset, let me welcome today's valued speaker, Mr. Gurpreet Sachdeva, the Senior Director at Capgemini. He has been so grateful to us that the moment we requested, he immediately accepted our request, and despite busy schedule, he is with all of us. I'm grateful to you, sir. I also take this opportunity to welcome all my friends from all professional societies and my participants from various parts of the country for this particular IEEE, IETE, CSI, BVI Camp weekly evening webinar series. All of you know that we have started this webinar series way back in June 2020 in the backdrop of COVID-19, and since then, almost on every Saturday or sometimes on alternate Saturday evening, the webinar is being continued, and this is 108th edition of that webinar which we have started. Dear friends, today's topic is very innovative, robotic process automation. And who else could have been the speaker for this topic other than Mr. Gurpreet Sachdeva, who himself is involved at such a valued company of the country and on such an important automation task. All of us know that the IT is automating everything in and around us. Dr. Ritika has already introduced the subject that to which extent the robotic process automation is going to be deeper and deeper in our day-to-day life. I was reading last month an article and saw that by 2030, probably the farmhouses for agricultural purposes, the robots will come and all existing farmers will become the managers of their field. And in fact, almost 80% plus activities will be done by the robots. So this is such an important topic. So maybe from household to our organizations, many of the industrial unit, manufacturing unit have already got robots in their supply chain management, in their manufacturing units. So this is such an important topic which is going to in multiple ways going to give us huge benefit and immense benefit, and automation in general has been of immense benefit to the mankind. So on this topic we are here, and with this note I would like to conclude today that हर सैटरडे हम मिलते हैं, आप हमारे प्रोग्राम में आते हैं, आते रहिए, फिर अगले एक ऑल्टरनेट सैटरडे के बाद अगले सैटरडे हम मिलेंगे इस नोट के साथ कि फूलों की तरह फिर खिलेंगे हम, फूलों की तरह फिर खिलेंगे हम, और नेक्स्ट टू नेक्स्ट सैटरडे एक नए टॉपिक के साथ फिर मिलेंगे हम. Thank you so much. Wish you all the best. Be attentive because there are certifications and many activities for which the routine announcement shall be done by Dr. Ritika. Be attentive to your chat window so that you should not miss anything of this webinar. Thank you so much. Wish you all the best. God bless you all. Stay safe, stay healthy, keep learning despite disruptions. And these webinar or lecture series are an important source for that. Wish you all the best. Over to you, Dr. Ritika.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your motivating words. I would now welcome amongst us our expert speaker, Mr. Gurpreet S. Sachdeva, sir, with an e-bouquet. Gurpreet, sir, thank you, sir. Gurpreet sir has over 3 decades of experience as a technology leader with deep hands-on experience and passion for building software with delightful customer experience. He has also been a co-founder of Delhi NCR Java User Group, author of a book and a video course. He focuses on building large enterprises, cloud scale, and customer-centric software. He has held different technical roles, including software engineer, management, software architect, and pre-sales consultant positions across multiple domains, specializing in cloud computing and distributed systems. A strong proponent of engineering excellence, best practices, and a keen Java enthusiast. Currently, Sir is playing the role of a solution architect for Cape Gemini Engineering and Research and Development, driving product transformation and digitization for clients in multiple industries like aerospace, defense, automotive, telecom, and life sciences. We are honored to have you amongst us today, sir. I would now request you to kindly enlighten the House.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Ritika, and thank you, Professor Huda, for inviting me and such a rousing welcome. And good evening to you all, friends. Just let me start sharing my screen.
Yes, sir.
Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Perfectly visible.
Yeah. So good evening again, everybody, and thank you for joining this session today. What I want to talk about today is robotic process automation. A brief overview has already been given by Dr. Ritika and Professor Huda that what RP is all about. But just wanted to say that automation has become a key in almost all the work we are doing these days, all the processes we are following, etc. And the idea being that we want to reduce as much as possible the manual human related activity so that we can benefit in cost purpose, we can be more operationally efficient, and also let the humans do more intelligent things, and the routine and the ordinary tasks can be done very easily by the automated software or automated bots or RP related applications. That's the whole idea, and that's what I want to cover today. So very briefly about myself, working as senior director at Capgemini Gurgaon. I think it's already been covered. Just wanted to share that I had authored a book on Elastic Stack and also a video course on practical DevOps security. And if you're interested, these are my coordinates on social media and Twitter and LinkedIn. Uh, what we're going to talk about today, briefly agenda for today's talk. First, I'd like to introduce the topic. I'd like to define what RPA is all about. Why are we meeting here today and we want to talk about RPA? Then what kind of different classifications there are, what kind of different types of bots we can have. We'll look into that. Then why are we doing this automation? Why are we going into RPA? What are the key drivers? And what are the key use cases, features which we can achieve through RPA? Then if you want to start developing RPA, if you want to adopt RPA, how will the entire process look like? How we can start doing it? Any organization can do it. And in fact, although RPA is for an enterprise or for an organization, but I would say that any individual can also start playing with some of the tools which are readily available and automate some of your own day-to-day activities in which you are spending a lot of time, which is a routine job. Then what benefits we can look up to when we follow RPA, for example, and then how we can start implementing it, what kind of tools are available in the market. Thankfully, you don't need to do everything yourself. There are a lot of tools available. There's a lot of support available in the market, in the industry, and you can quickly start building it. So what exactly is robotic process automation? So this is a definition, and I'll read first, and then I'll try to go deeper into it. It says that RPA is the application of a technology that allows to configure computer software for a robot to capture and interpret existing applications for processing a transaction, manipulating data, handle high volume repeatable tasks, triggering responses, and communicating with other digital systems. So there are certain keywords here which we need to realize. First and foremost, the computer software. So when we talk about RPA or robotic process automation, the word robotic can be misleading, or it could be a misnomer in a sense that it's not actually like a physical robot which you see towards the left side of the slide. It's everything is about software. There's some application or a computer software which is automating stuff, and but we call it robotic process automation because it is working automatically like a robot, right? Then the next thing we need to look into is that we want to process a transaction whereby we may want to also manipulate some data, and the idea is that it should be repeatable and it should be of high volume. So what I'm trying to say is that if there is something which I'm doing, let's say once a week, once a month, for example, there's no point spending effort and money on automating that kind of a process because I'm going to do that occasionally. Also, I might do something, but the volume is not very heavy. From an organization point of view, not many employees are doing that process. So it's still okay. You can continue doing manual process, right? So then there's no need of going to that. We need to identify those areas. It works best for those areas which are of high volume and repeatable activities. And then when you use RPA, it not only performs certain instructions which you will implement, but it will also trigger responses. It can take some actions based on the kind of logic you built into that. There could be some triggers. Those triggers could be, for example, let's say sending an alert, sending a pager, sending an SMS or a WhatsApp, or maybe killing some applications or shutting down a machine. Or it could also mean it could also be a machine-to-machine communication or any other digital system. So there's a lot of things which can integrate together as part of the triggering response of a RPA software. So a question would come that why are we talking about RPA now? And by the way, RPA has been in the market for quite some time now. It's not, it's not like Chat GPT, which came a few days back. It's been there for a few years now, but and people are using it uh, in a large manner. But still, why are we talking about it? Why are we meeting today here and talking about RPA? Because what we have seen is that the productivity figures for, and this is as per a Dutch study in a Dutch university, that the productivity of office workers has not improved, whereas the productivity of factory workers has increased many, many times in the last 4 decades. Because in office, we are still trying to do work in the same manner which we used to do earlier. Like we have some people processing some forms. So those forms necessarily may not be in a paper form, but let's say uh, an automated software form, and typing something, some writing some data, and trying to analyze few things ourselves. So that kind of activity hasn't changed. Whereas in factory workers, we see a lot of changes these days. In fact, we are talking about smart factories, and we are talking about mechanized robots over there also. So a lot of productivity improvement is there. So we need to find workarounds to everyday problems. What it means is that how we can, we are we try to find workarounds to everyday problems, but we're not really doing it in a proper efficient manner. So we need to optimize on that. That's the idea here. Um, there could be some places where people are still working in paper or not automate so into digitalizing their operations. So this again kind of leads to a lower productivity. Or you are maybe looking at some system and then typing data into another application. That kind of flow is also working these days. Or we take data from various sources. Let's say I'm creating some kind of a document or a research study or something like that sort. I'm taking something from an Excel sheet, taking something from a PowerPoint or something from internet, my web browser, and combining few things. So this kind of methodology, this kind of way of working in offices has been going on for a long time, and companies want to optimize it. So the end goal of any company is to make, basically we say wealth creation, right? To make as much as profit as possible. Now, in order to make profit, there are two ways. Either you increase the top line, right? Basically, you sell more, you have more revenue, so your profit will increase. Or your bottom line is optimized. Basically, your expenses are reduced, so your profit margin increases. So RPA is a way to optimize your bottom line, to reduce your expenses, so that eventually your end profits increase. So these are some of the reasons, why people, why industry, why everybody is talking about RPA these days. And you can also see in this particular slide, this is a report by Zinov Consulting. Zinov does a lot of consulting and analysis for various kind of aspects in industry for different technologies. So what it has saying that from 2019 to 2024, we expect 35 to 40% increase in the spending from enterprises, and then by 2024, it's expected to be $11.1 billion spending. So that's a huge number. And then you can also see some figures also, although they are a little older, but you can see that the market is huge, $50 billion. That was the figure of 2019, but today it's even higher. And the kind of talent base we have, the number of enterprises which are leveraging RPA, etc. So you can say there's an uptake. Industry people are talking about it. People are implementing RPA, and we can see that more and more this trend will continue increasing. Also, again from Zenov, this is just a perspective across different industries, which have been quicker to adopt RPA practice. So you can see that banking and financial services, they are the leaders in adopting these practices because they keep on, they do normal stuff, or maybe you have some query like, let's say, give me my account balance, for example. You call someone, and then that person, looks into your account details, tells you your balance. This is a repetitive task. They can automate it. There are many such activities which happen in a bank. So they have been the early adopters. And then you see insurance companies also, or healthcare, and then of course retail and consumer product group companies. These are the market leaders in terms of adoption of RPA practices because they saw much more benefit in adopting it. But you can see that the trend is going, there are many other industries going from telecom to industrial to energy, etc. They all are joining the bandwagon and trying to adopt the RPA practices. So with that, we come to see that what are different types of software robots, right? So at a very high level, we can say that either you have an unattended software robot, or you can also call it autonomous, or you can say it's an attended robot, or you can also call it assistive. Just to give you an idea that what this robot would be like. So you may think that, as I mentioned earlier, also that this robo is like, although in the picture also it's showing like an actual physical robo, but actually it's a computer software. It's not any uh, machine or that kind of thing, which mechanized thing which you might see in some manufacturing plant. So, and it's interesting why the industry adopted the use of word robotic. I think they wanted to uh, give people a way to visualize how does the computer software, automated computer program, works or looks like, especially people who are not that comfortable with IT or computers. So then they can visualize in their mind that, okay, just like there's a physical robot, similarly, there could be computer softwares. They can also work on their own. So yeah, so then we have unattended softwares. Basically, in this case, the RPA bot or RPA application will work on its own without any human assistance. As an example, let's say you have created a bot or a RPA program which is looking into a file folder for any new files which come over there. And when there's a file, it looks at the contents of those files and sees if there's something sensitive in that. And then if there's something sensitive, it it sends an alert to the concerned user. And or if it's not sensitive, it just deletes the file. So there are only two activities. It sends an alert, it forgets about it, and there's no human interaction. Whereas in case of an attended assistive bot, basically what will happen is that, let's say, for example, the same example we take, the information is sensitive in a file. What could happen is that a human assistance may be required, and a human may then alert the respective user, right? So this is basically the high level difference. So it could be without human assistance or with some human assistance. And certainly, again, reiterating, RPA is not like your typical robots, which we see in movies, or which we see working in various plants or manufacturing units. What we're talking about is a complete software automated program. I first talked about at a very high level how we can classify robots, but then there are other ways also of classifying robots. So first and foremost, we saw about whether you're unattended and attended. So I'll not repeat that. But then, based on the level of intelligence which is there programmed in the bot, either it would be based on certain enterprise rules or business processing rules, uh, if then kind of thing, or maybe using some knowledge information system, It might be doing some analysis on its own, or it could be intelligent enough to, let's say, learn based on the information which it is getting or the surroundings or the output it gets. It's trying to being like a self-learning program. Then there's a lot of data manipulation also, because without data, really, we can't do much about in today's world. So now the data in which they're dealing, it could be a structured data, maybe like a relational database, or it could be unstructured data, like it could be a blog, it could be a video, it could be a file, it could be an image, it could be anything. And then whether it kind of performs some analysis on that data or not, whether it is doing just read-only operation or doing some editing or manipulating data. This is another way of classifying robots. Then in terms of the interaction which it is doing, is it sitting at the back end of the system and waiting for an input to come and then doing something which is backend related? Or it is sitting along with the application, or it is helping you in taking some inputs. So it could be different levels of interactions. Finally, we can see that whether they have some triggers, just like I gave an example earlier that based on the sensitive issue, there could be an alert that is a kind of a trigger, or there's a particular flow around it. And mind you, I think many people think that we are talking about RPA, we're talking about more and more automation. So maybe, of course, it is good, we're reducing cost, but maybe humans are being redundant. But I think that is not the case. Uh, Personally, I've been into many such programs where we have to provide around the clock support, and there are people who take pagers, and they are woken up if there's some critical thing going on the field, and no one enjoys that. But if we have a system like an RPA built into our support process, and they can probably handle much of the first level queries which come, then the life of engineers are very smooth and they are very happy about it. So actually, my experience is that engineers love these kind of software and automated tools. So it makes their lives easier. Then let's see very high level, what are the key drivers for doing RPA? So I think there are three key drivers. Of course, cost is always the case. We talk about bottom line, top line, productivity improvement. So how can we improve? The goal of all organizations is to continuously improve the productivity of their employees. So if you are familiar with the agile way of working, so we have a term by the name of velocity. So the goal is that we keep on improving the velocity of the team as such. Then operational efficiency is another driver for RPA. And when we talk about cost, I think, of course, if we're reducing cost, so that then your engineers can do much more interesting things. Many times what happens is that engineers are stuck in doing manual jobs or legacy job, and they're not enjoying their work. But if you can free them from there and give them more exciting work, give them more innovating work, they will love doing that. So don't need to do expensive integrations, and we can reduce losses. Bots, by their very nature, are they're accurate in a sense that they'll continue doing the same stuff again and again and again. There are no cases of human errors, which we typically have in humans. And then you can scale quickly. These days, we have public cloud platforms like AWS or GCP or Azure. And if you want to deploy your bots over there, and then in no time, you can quickly scale your bots to tens of hundreds to thousands. In terms of efficiency, robots are not humans, so they don't get bored. So they can continue working day in, day out, every hour. You can continue. Uh, they can continue work. So there's a greater efficiency, and we see that because there are lesser error chances, so the user experience is better and there's better quality, and there's a better optimized data gathering from various parts of the system. And bots can also help us with regulatory compliance. So there are many industries, just like, for example, I'll take an example of aerospace. So safety is a very important criteria in case of aerospace. And what happens is when safety auditors come, they look at logs of various operations when you're doing coding, when you're doing testing, when you're doing in field, etc. So, but if these bots can help us in generating those logs and give us a consolidated report, it can help the engineers in a sense that, okay, audit will still happen, but then they can very easily give the all the data which is required by auditors to verify whether a particular piece of software is safe for aerospace or not. Now, looking into some use cases, what we can see is that there are various things. I mean, either it could be an ordinary manual task which you're doing, or it could be something, an intelligent task which is being done where we need some judgment, etc. In terms of regular tasks, for example, we have to open emails and attachments and take a decision to whether read it or maybe delete it. You can make some rules and the bot can do it on your behalf. You may want to log into some enterprise applications. Maybe I need to fill my timesheets, for example. And if I have to just fill the same stuff every time in my timesheet, I can automate it. I don't need to do it myself, for that matter. If you want to examine the contents of some files or folders, uh, RPA is one of the best techniques to doing it. If you want to fill some forms automatically, again, it's the best technique. Just want to do ordinary copy pasting, again, I think go for it, or just reading some information from multiple sources and putting into a database. If you can define some rules how you can do it, then you don't need to do that manually yourself. You don't need to run the SQL queries yourself. Your bot can run that on your behalf. Now, also, you can have rules-based decision making. You can have it may not be a kind of an AI kind of a thing, but if you can define some intelligent rules, decision making can be based on that also. Or if you want to migrate your databases from, let's say, one database to another database, or from one site to another site, so the whole process of data extraction and migrating can be automated. You want to do some calculations, maybe you are a bank or an insurance company, you want to do some calculations, let's say on the interest due or the premium due, etc. All that can be very easily automated. It's already there. I'm saying that RPA is one of the ways to uh, automate those things. If you want to connect to different systems, nowadays most of the systems have well-defined APIs. It is REST, or it could be SOAP, for example, and you can connect to those different interfaces, those APIs, so that you gather more information, intelligent information, and then do proper processing. Or you may just want to, let's say, uh, get some information from the web and then do something about it. Maybe you want to watch a movie and you want to see what are the ratings, etc., for that movie. So even that can be automated. You can give some sites and it can do that for you. There are many more use cases. These are what I thought, at the top of my mind, which, all organizations are interested in doing. So I talked about manual processes. I talked about repetitive processes, but then every process which upfront looks like it's suited for being for an RPA based technique, it may not be the case. So and we don't, as I keep telling in my organization, in my teams, to my clients also, we don't need to fit uh, solution into any kind of problem. We have to first see that whether there's actually a problem which can be solved by this particular technique or not. Otherwise, we don't need to do overkill kind of thing. I mean, doing RPA just for the sake of RPA will not give you the right level of benefits. So first and foremost, try to identify processes which are being done manually right now and which are repetitive in nature. So if there's something which is not manual, so there's already looks like a system already in place. You don't need to kind of redo everything. Or if something is not repetitive, it is being done occasionally, so you can live with that, because ultimately the cost benefits will not be too much. Are there some rules you can apply in the process? Because ultimately any software you make, it has to have some logic, what to do, can you apply those rules, or it is just like random? If there's a random decision model, then probably RPA is not suitable. Then the inputs, of course, should be in electronic format, and they should be standardized. We need to have proper inputs in place. If it's not the case, then again RPA is not suitable for you. And exception rates should be lower, in a sense like we don't have too many errors in your process. Otherwise, again, there's no point in automating, because there will be a lot of scenarios when your bots will be just waiting for the exceptional scenario to rectify it. And can the processing methods be changed? If you see that there's a process which is not optimized, which takes a lot of time, or which is not automated, if you can do changes in your own process, if you can reduce the number of steps, so go ahead, do it first before jumping into RPA. And then the volume part, like we should, whenever you automate anything, whether it's in the case of RPA or whether you're writing a program and you want to automate it, just say automate that stuff which is going to be which has a higher volume. You have, let's say, tens of hundreds of applications to process in a day. You want to do KYC verification, and there are hundreds of forms which you need to do for a KYC verification. Go ahead and do it. If there's only just one form, might as well do yourself. There's no need to invest in that. If in the entire system which you have right now, if doing a minor automation, a typical automation can help, then go ahead, just do that. Don't go for RPA and other things just because we hear that, oh, there's a fascination in our industry that everything we say it's intelligent. Everything is intelligent. Everything is using AI. Everything is using ML. People don't even know what AI ML is, but they say that their product or their tool is intelligent and I am using it. You really don't need to do that. So if it's typical automation can help, then go ahead and do that. If using RPA requires system level changes in your existing systems, existing software, then I think it's wise not to touch it. Don't do it, because the costs will be very huge, and then the overall cost advantage will be not there. But if all these decision points apply as per illustrated in this slide, then you can go ahead and you can implement RPA for that process. This is just a heuristic to identify the processes which you may automate. Of course, based on your situation, there could be some other conditions which may apply. So just a guide on that thing. So how do we go about adopting RPA? So it looks very fascinating when we say that, okay, we can do a big bang thing, or we can do overnight, but then the chances of failure are quite high in that. So I always advocate that whenever you are changing your systems, whenever you're adopting new technologies, we should take baby steps rather than boiling the ocean at first go. What that means is like select one or two processes maybe, or sub processes. Just try to prototype that first in an experimental fashion, and just see few aspects of that if they how it looks if you automate it. But then that is something which is not going to be run on an actual live environment or a test environment, because there could be some problems. And there's no guarantee, because you do a quick prototype. If it works, fine, you can work ahead. Otherwise, you can just reject it. That's the idea here. The next stage could be that you have seen some promising results with your prototype, and now you want to do a little bit more advanced development or refinement. It's a pilot phase. So short-term, testing phase, where you actually evaluate many more scenarios, and if you see that is all working good, and then you can think of productizing it. You can think of actually implementing it. And finally, we come to the implementation phase. Your thing has gone through the prototype and pilot, and both are successful. So that means that this particular pod is fulfilling all your requirements, and you can actually run in the implementation phase, right? So, but yeah, of course, when you are doing implementation, there are many or criteria which you need to think about, and you need to have a buy-in from all impacted stakeholders because this is the organizational level aspect. So, all business stakeholders or product field stakeholders need to uh, give a go ahead before you want to go ahead and implement it. So, I talked about the drivers of identifying an RPA process. I also talked about different stages for RPA adoption. Let's see what is the life cycle of a software robot. So first of all, I have been reiterating again and again that uh, cost is an aspect, and just because RPA can automate things doesn't mean that we automate everything because we are living in an era when we make a software and we are deploying on especially on cloud platforms. It's not like an earlier age where we used to have a CD software in a CD we used to install and that's it. We forget about it. Nowadays, you have to continuously maintain your software also. So there's a cost towards it. So we have to, and it's a continuous process. You'll keep on refining. So the first phase is the discovery phase. How which processes to automate. So you can do either through maybe you can see the logs of various interactions which are happening in your system, and you can identify some interconnections and then try to discover some processes. Or you can do a process modeling, you can do stakeholder interviews, you can conduct workshops internally, talk to various business people, business function holders, like what challenges they face, and that can help you in identifying the processes which you may want to automate. Uh, then the next phase is the design phase. In this phase, you'll have to decide your RPA software, how will it look like? What kind of triggers it will have? What kind of rules it will have? What kind of flows it will have? Whether you want an attended assisted robot or you want an unassisted robot. So these are things you have to decide. What kind of data integration? What kind of API level integration you need to have? Do you want some level of intelligence? uh, a little bit of AI, for example, chatbot kind of a thing. So all those factors have to be thought about, and what makes best sense for you. Then when you go for the development and testing phase, again, try to test or develop when you're developing. Basically, there are many tools available in the market, and in a short while, I'll talk about that also. So see what works best for you, and you don't need to start from ground up completely. There are a lot of third-party software available. There are low-code, no-code platforms also available, and which can help you quickly making bots. So that's not a big deal. But then when you have to test it, uh, that is where the real challenge will come. Test in the actual scenarios which will face in the field. Test on the actual environment where you want to run these bots, so that when it actually goes to the live environment, you don't see any challenges. When we come to the deployment phase, I think the biggest decision you need to make for deployment is whether you want to run the bots on cloud or whether you want to run in your own premises and where there's a cloud, where there's a bot orchestrator which can manage your bots. So this is the critical decision you need to decide upon. There are pros and cons of both the things. If you want to deploy on the cloud-based model, so of course the benefit it gives you, it is very easy to deploy and maintain, and you can scale up very quickly. From tens to hundreds to thousands of bots can be scaled up. Whereas when you talk about your on-premise environment, your own servers, if there are some security requirement or compliance requirement, maybe you are working for a sensitive industry, those kind of things you may want to keep the bots in your own system, in your infrastructure, but then you need to manage the bots yourself, you need to monitor them properly yourself. And when we talk about maintaining the bots, that's what I was speaking earlier also, that you need to continuously monitor them, that you need to do a health check for them. If they are failing, you need to identify what are the reasons for failing. The bot orchestrator has to do all these things, keep a track of all these bots, and if let's say the bots are failing, maybe restart them, maybe send an alert, a diagnostic message that things are not going well. Yeah, so I think that's a constant process. And based on whatever new scenarios are coming up, you may want to reiterate and you may need to redesign and fix those issues. Now, the essential thing is measurement is very important. How will you make sure that you have invested so much time and money, whether you're getting the right benefits or not? What's the point in making a bot if you're not able to justify the cost? And that is only possible if you do right level of measurements. So that could be possible maybe by looking at the logs, maybe by looking at, by logs, you can see if there are some warnings, some uh, error messages, some alerts, what kind of things are happening. Or you can look at the cost, especially when you go to a cloud environment, you go to any hyperscaler, like let's say, for example, AWS, you get the bill at the end of the month. Let's say your bot has taken over the work of 2 engineers. You get the bill from Amazon at the end of the month. So you need to see whether that bill is lesser or more than the cost of those particular engineers. So all these things have to be seen, and then you can decide whether it is making sense for you or not. So there can be different maturity levels for automation maturity. Like first, when we start, it's basically a simple robotic process automation, and generally a tool like Blue Prism can help you. By the way, I've given 1 or 2 examples of different tools. There are many more in the market. This is not, by any means the only ones or the best ones. We have seen that most of the automation is at the first level only right now. And when we go to the cognitive RPA, we are saying that is the place where we have some kind of intelligence. It could be some rules, some basic level of intelligence is there in the bots. UiPath is a very popular tool. Automation Anywhere is also very popular for that. And then you have chatbots, right? We all interact with chatbots. We go to websites, and nowadays many institutes like banks, insurance, telecom provider, etc., are giving bot-based service. And then, of course, you could have full-fledged AI level of intelligence. That's also possible because you may have NLP and NLU and those kind of things embedded in the bots. And then there are, I think, IBM Watson, AlphaGo. These are the top of the class tools which can help you in having proper intelligence in the bots. But again, as I mentioned earlier, one should not think that I will quickly jump to only AI-based bot because that is probably more glamorous. We have to say that if my job is getting done by just a basic level bot, I think then we should be good about it. So I've spoken about many things, and then at the end of the day, it comes to how efficient the process becomes and what are the cost advantages. Of course, there's accuracy. You get the same decisions every time. Bots don't get bored. Your productivity increases. You can free up your engineers in doing more interesting activities. And I've seen in myself, there are many clients who have legacy products which are like many decades older. It is very hard for them to hold on to engineers because young engineers don't want to work in languages and technologies which were 20 years old. They want to do something more exciting. So it makes a lot of sense to automate stuff over there through RPA and let engineers work in more dynamic things. Bots are more consistent, and bots also give you an audit trail which can be used by auditors for doing various kind of compliances. Staff retention, of course, you're freeing up your engineers doing more interesting things, and bots will continue working for you no matter whether rain or shine. Bots are there for you day and night, and you can scale up, scale down as per your requirement instantly. So completely possible. Whereas hiring engineers or retrenching engineers is a very painful, a very time-taking activity. It's not very easy. And right shoring means like many multinational corporations, they outsource activities to countries like India or maybe some other low-cost centers. So, but it is I would say it is a hassle for them also to manage their vendors, right? Bots or RPA gives them an opportunity so that if they can automate some stuff, they don't need to worry about a separate country or a separate vendor because they're doing it on their own. Uh, Going through all of these items, one should not assume that everything is hunky-dory. Uh, RPA is the only way to do things, and right after this session, probably we'll start working on that. There are some pitfalls there, some challenges which we need to look after when we are working in RPA, when we take a decision to start working on RPA. First and foremost, selection of right level of processes is very important. If the process you want to automate is not well suited, so then you'll not get the real advantage. You have to do proper testing because think of a bank or an insurance provider, and if their bots are not behaving properly and they're giving incorrect information, so that's a problem. And I'll give an interesting example. Although that's not RPA, when Microsoft first came out with their intelligent bot, uh, it was of course an intelligent bot using AI and everything. It started learning abusive words, and it became very abusive. So, and it happened few years back. So Microsoft had to take it down for some time and improve so that it doesn't learn, those kind of language. So I'm saying, all in all, you need to have proper testing. Check that your bot is not violating any compliance requirements, especially your data stays within your geography. There's no data related issues. There are no privacy related issue. Those things are not revealed. Before automating any process, it's better to take a look at the process in whatever shape it is today and see that uh, process is not broken in itself. If you can optimize the process first and then go in creating the software, right? All stakeholders should be aligned in using this in this software because ultimately you're making these bots for business holders, and if they are not comfortable using these RPA bots, then there's no point going ahead. A proper monitoring is required, and just like stakeholder alignment, if you have some vendors, if you have some other business stakeholders, do a proper alignment with them. Have a well thought approach to adopt it. You may want to train your employees in how to use it, how it will lessen their workload, and you'll probably need to train the users also that how they can go ahead and use it. Personally, I was also not comfortable a few years back when I used to go to customer care sites and working with bots. But now I prefer working with bots because that's more quicker. So a proper adoption approach is required, and it should be aligned with your top level tech initiatives, whatever roadmaps you have. It should not look like that RPA is tangential to whatever trajectory you're taking in your overall uh, technology initiatives. A quick look at the different tools we have. There are many tools. I just picked few. There's automation on anywhere, which does we can do rapid automation of rules-based tasks. There's Blue Prism, which is a leader in back office. There's Work Fusion, which comes with machine learning capabilities. There's UiPath, which is very popular and integration capabilities. And I'll recommend that if someone wants to play around, then UiPath is probably would be the first way of doing things. You can just take maybe an eval copy or something and play around with that. It is very good in a sense. It's like a low code platform. You don't have to code too much. Through the GUI only, you can create a lot of capabilities. So they have different, uh, USPs and pros and cons. So if you want security compliance, go for automation anywhere. If you want and Blue Prism, if you want machine learning capabilities, go for Work Fusion. And if you want ease of development and workforce integration, then UiPath is better. But of course, they all have certain areas where they're lacking also. But I think we have to balance it out based on uh, what we require. So in the end, I think I'll just summarize by saying that RPA can automate a lot of repetitive and manual tasks, but it's not a silver bullet. You cannot use RPA everywhere. You have to identify where it is more applicable, the kind of processes where it can help you, and it will give you eventual cost advantage. If used properly for appropriate processes, it can give you tremendous improvement in terms of productivity and operational efficiency. Think about it. Let's say there's a customer support call center and they have, let's say, 10 people working in the call center, answering your queries, basic queries for some kind of service. Maybe you have a RO system or anything. Uh, and if you have bots which can reduce their load, and you can scale up them, overnight you can have hundreds of bots taking care of those activities. So it helps in that. Again, it can be unattended, attended. We talked about the classification. There could be various levels of classification, and always uh, take baby steps. First, do a prototype, then go for a pilot, and then you like may want to do a complete productization. There are a lot of tools available in the market, and based on your requirements, your needs, you can pick any particular choose, and you can start playing with it. It's not really very difficult to create RPA bots. With that, I would like to end my talk. Thank you all for being very patient. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for this wonderful session. I am sure this enlightful session will have enlightened the participants about robotic process automation and its implementation. There are some questions now by the participants, which I'd like to take up now with your permission, sir.
Yeah, please.
Yes, sir. The first question we have: is there any need for some kind of preventive, predictive, scheduled, or any other kind of maintenance requirements for the bot, basically?
Yeah, so I understood. I think we talk about robotic process automation, and the image we give is of a robot, which looks like a typical machine, and all machines need maintenance. And that is true for software also. So I mentioned in my talk that you have to continuously monitor your bots. So what could happen is that just like all softwares, when you were developing, when you were testing, there are certain scenarios which happened in the field which you were not able to imagine earlier, and that is happening. And there's a defect. You realize there's a defect in the bot, so you have to monitor for that. That is one. Second, there could be some new variation in your process which has come in. There's a new options which have come in your process. There's an unexpected traffic which has come in. So for all these things, you have to continuously monitor your bots. I will not say predictive maintenance, but I will say more of like continuously monitor your. These bots also need to be monitored for health, hygiene, what kind of environment they're running, how much CPU memory they are using. If they are going over the board, maybe your system will crash. So all these things have to be continuously monitored.
Absolutely, sir. Rightly said. The second question we have: how does RPA handle sensitive organizational information?
Right. So I think let's take an example of a bank, for example, right? We have our accounts information, money related information, and what could be more sensitive than money? And then they also have information about which we call PII, personally identifiable information, like based on the account number, you can identify, okay, who is Gurpreet Singh, where is the address, what's the phone number, blah, 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 which is, privacy, right? And we don't want to violate the privacy of any person. That's a bank's responsibility. And when we go to a bank in a branch, personally, we expect that bank teller not to violate that privacy information. So now, when they are bots, when you're making a software, you have to be conscious of that fact that it's basically think of it like a software only. You are making a software and make sure that what we do is we say that no PII information should be in the logs. So like, let's say they're searching for my account, right? And the bot wants to say in the log that, okay, I searched Gurpreet's log ID. So it will basically anonymize the information. It will say that I searched, let's say, user XYZ's account information. those kind of things. That is one way of saying that sensitive information is not present in the logs. Then there could be another aspect is that you don't want it to go into public cloud, because then it is going out of your data center. Although nowadays many banks in India also are using public clouds. So recent example I can tell you is that, and that is the true for all countries. Like we don't want our information to go outside the country. So now you see that all these hyperscalers have two data centers, two different regions in India itself, so that if there's a bank which puts their information, the data will not go outside India. And also we can give high availability and fault tolerance because we'll have two different regions in India. So what I'm trying to say is that you can think of running on-premise your bots then, so that sensitive information is, you can be very well sure that information is not going out. Plus, there are some other security related aspects which are typical cyber security related things, like what kind of port, what kind of traffic, what kind of users can interact with the bots. So those things basically can help making sure that the sensitive part is taken care of.
Absolutely, sir. So next question we have is RPA was pushed to the forefront by the COVID pandemic, but how long can it actually take to ingrain this complete automation into an enterprise?
So certainly COVID has a push on digitalization in the world, and RPA also, no doubt about it. We certainly don't need another pandemic to complete the the push. But I can say that everybody has realized the potential of this automated software. Enterprises have realized that. Just like employees have started enjoying the benefits of work from home, and they're not willing to come to offices. Similarly, companies and enterprises have also identified uh, that there are benefits to automate these things. I cannot put a date on that. I think there are separate consultancy organizations who can put dates. But I showed in one of my slides that by 2024 at least, we see a lot of uptake. I would say in next few years probably we'll have more and more processes automated. But I think humans are not going anywhere. I mean, you may automate whatever, but it could never be 100% automated.
Absolutely, sir. Another question we have: bots are more efficient as compared to humans, but what would be the result if a bot goes wrong? Like, what is their probability of error at the time of execution, and are we prepared for it?
Yeah, that is why, as I mentioned, that we need to prototype, pilot, and then finally implement, so that we are sure of it. And it also depends upon your industry. For example, let's say you are an enterprise, you're providing customer support for, let's say, a water heater or a RO system, etc., whereby you just wanted to automate some processes. So now it's regular maintenance. It's not so mission critical or sensitive. So I can quickly make a bot and I can deploy on the system. Even if there's some error, what will go wrong? A person will complain and say that your service executive did not come in a day or two as expected. We can apologize and then we can rectify our bot and we can go ahead. But if I am a bank, if I am an insurance company, if I'm a government organization, then people do a step-by-step approach. And this is true with all countries. Everywhere I've seen, sensitive part is handled very, very cautiously, and mostly the non-sensitive part is being automated. The sensitive part, you can say we are still using assisted bots. So there's a human who will ultimately give a yes or no signal, but in order to help that human being, there are bots which are internal and which are not visible outside the organization.
Absolutely, sir. Sir, the last question, I know the number of questions are too many. And one last question: are there any regulatory compliances for RPA implementation in India?
Not specific to RPA as such. I think any regulatory compliance which is required for any software, RPA has to be compliant with that. Let's say if you want to uh, comply for financial industry, you have NIST compliances. You have, if you go talk about US, they have Department of Defense has a FIPS compliance. So that is required for all softwares, and that will be required for RPA also. There is no standard per se separately. If you're making a RPA, then you have to comply for that. There's nothing like that.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for this wonderfully knowledgeable session. I think this session has given all of us a highlight into how RPA is becoming a part and parcels of our lives, which I think none of us would have realized up till now. Professor M.N. Huda, sir, Director Bharti Vidyapeeth, had to leave for an urgent meeting. So, sir could not be here at this moment of time. But sir, I'd like you to kindly accept this small certificate
Thank
from
you
our
so much,
side.
ma'am.
This is just a simple memento that for this wonderful session today. And we would love to have another session with more such information on RPA implementation with you in the future. Uh, Along with this certificate, sir, we have a small e-memento because at this moment, even we have gone digital in all forms. So
Yeah.
this is a small e-memento today to commemorate this wonderful occasion and
Sure.
this wonderful session with you, sir. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much,
so
sir,
much.
for this
Thank
wonderful
you for
session.
thank you for inviting me. I enjoyed a lot speaking here.
Thank you, sir. The
Thank
pleasure
you.
is on our
Bye.
side.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So, dear participants, with this, we come to an end to today's wonderful session on robotic process automation. I hope this session will have given you all an highlight into how robotic process automation has been adopted by organization and it is becoming a part and parcels of our life. So whether knowingly or unknowingly, but all of us are using some application of robotic process automation nowadays, either at our workplaces or as customers. The feedback form link for this wonderful session has already been shared in the chat window. I once again thank our expert Gurpreet sir for today's session. I also thank all the distinguished panelists from IEEE and all the other bodies who have joined us today for this wonderful session. The feedback form link has been shared in the chat window, dear participants. Kindly